What's up, Doc? Welcome to the Docs Get Money podcast. Are you a badass doctor killing it professionally and has bigger dreams than just clocking in and out of the hospital? Do you want to leave behind a legacy that is as lit as an HBCU homecoming? Want to know how other doctors are getting to the big bag? That's right, making 5, 6, and 7 figures without putting on the white coat? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kimberly, but you can call me Kim or KB. I went from being a burnt out and overwhelmed emergency physician to the founder and CEO of 2 6-figure non-clinical companies and beating burnout along the way. I'm also your business coach, here to help you make money moves to change the world. This podcast isn't just about making money, though. It's about leveling up your life, mindset, and bank account so you can build an empire that's as iconic as Beyonce. You ready? Let's get into it. Hey, Doc. Burned out? Ready to just burn the whole hospital down? Well, let's start a fire. Okay, no, not in the hospital, but in your bank account. And from Side Hustler to CEO, my signature one-on-one business coaching program, you'll transform your burnout into a fire and start your own profitable coaching, consulting, or midterm rental business and make clinical cash in 90 days or less. That's right, 4 or 5 figures in 90 days or less. This is only for doctors who are done being overworked and undervalued and need a way out of the hospital now. With your fire offer, you're not just dreaming about escaping clinical practice, you're building your own emergency exit. In 90 days, you could be your own boss, making bank, and actually enjoying your life again. So are you ready to swap those singed scrubs for CEO status? Then hit me up at Dr. Kimberly B on Instagram with the word burn, and let's turn that burnout into the bag. Well, thank you so much for coming back to another episode of the Docs Get Money podcast. I have the most amazing and probably one of the most important people on my board of directors here with me. I have the amazing Shaneh Woods. I want to put a doctor in front of your name, probably because this is a doctor's podcast, but you are not a doctor. You are an accountant.
And I like to say
period. Hey, come on, Dr. Money. And she is my money magician. She's my money alchemist. She's so much more than just an accountant. She's literally a money alchemist. So thank you so much, Shaneh, for gracing the podcast and give us a little bit of information about you.
Well, thank you for having me. I love talking about money. So any opportunity I have, I say yes.
Okay, period.
Right? And honestly, that is probably the most important thing I can bring to your podcast today. Say yes. Say yes again. Ooh. Say yes harder. Say yes deeper. Right? And then say thank you more, please. Yes.
I don't think most people think about that with money, though. They're not trying to say, yes, we want to say yes, more money, but I don't know if we're ready to get yes, more. Yes. How do we get there?
It was a journey. So I grew up really poor. Like, if you think redneck trailer trash, that's me. Not really what you'd expect, having known me, right? But grew up in foster care, grew up state, monitored. It was fun. But what I did have was a gift for numbers, and I count everything. Like, I can't look at anything without starting to count points. If I'm walking up or down the stairs, I'm counting the stairs. If I see a shelf of books, I'm counting the number of books. Like, I just can't not count. So the joke always was that I was going to be an accountant.
There we go.
And so that's what I became. Mm-hmm. I became the very stereotypical accountant, the one that everybody wants to avoid, with a stick up their butt.
Okay. Yes, because nobody wants a damn accountant they can't even talk to. That was you. I don't see. you have told me this before, and for anybody that's looking at this on video and looking at our interview on video, you can see there's a beautiful moon goddess in the background, and there's these beautiful paintings, and you can like look at Shane, and there's like this blue and purple. He's got these 6-sleeve tattoos. I cannot think that knowing you now that you were this. Hello, I'm Shaneh Woods, your accountant here.
I was, because that's what I was taught an accountant was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way to be successful. And I mean, I had the big office with the glass walls, my name in gold, working 80, 90, 100 plus hours. And I burnt myself out hard. I mean, this is a doctor podcast, so you guys know what burnout does to a person's body.
Yeah.
I went through 2 years where I couldn't walk. I had no sensation of hot or cold. Like I'd scald myself, and it was really, like funny. I'm using air quotes there. My husband gets this very, very calm voice, the kind that you start, okay, something really bad's going on. And he's like, honey, can you please take your hand out of the boiling water? I couldn't feel it. I didn't realize the water was boiling. I wasn't looking at it. I was just throwing potatoes in the water. And I did not realize my hand, it was really just my pinky, was trailing in the water. Had no sensation of it whatsoever.
Was that because of the burnout?
Yep. Yeah, they like, I saw, I don't know how many specialists, how many doctors. I got told I had early onset Parkinson's. I got told they thought it was ALS. I got told it was MS. I got told we don't know what it is, but we also don't know how to fix it. Right.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I really thought that if I did not figure this out in 6 months, I was either going to be dead or told that my symptoms were permanent and I was dying. So I moved from Alaska, which is where my business was, and I was burning myself out, to Ohio, where my husband's family could take care of me. And Barry stayed in Alaska working so that we'd have health insurance to pay for all of my tests at the Cleveland Clinic. And the Cleveland Clinic is the one that said, you have relapsing remitting MS. Then they shot me up with something that put me into anaphylaxis. And they went, Now this was several years ago, so I don't know what's happened with the MS drugs since then. But so this was more than 15 years. 15? Yeah, about 15 years ago. And they said, well, basically all MS drugs are the derivative of the same compound. So if you're allergic to one, you're allergic to them all. There's nothing we can do to help you. The only thing we can advise you to do is you don't want to overheat, because every time I got too hot or a fever, the sac around my heart would start to fill up with fluid.
Okay.
And I had 3 heart events because of that before I was 29.
What?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, pause. So those of you who are listening, even though Shaneh is my accountant and we do, I would say also very clearly, she's my money coach. We've had very in-depth conversations. I've never heard this story before. So I'm like literally amazed. The fact that you had, sounds like a pericardial effusion, sounds like potentially tamponade episodes. Did you have to get like a surgery to drain fluid around from around your heart? Wow. Yeah. Those, and just to say to you, like as an emergency physician, that's what I train for, to do that in an emergency situation. But I can count on one hand, actually one finger, how many times I've ever done that before. And to somebody in emergency condition. So that's super serious. I didn't know that. Well, let me ask you, what do you think got you there? A burnout is, of course, a combination of a lot of different things. I think one big thing that I feel like I know from you is really trying to conform to a system that we are not meant to conform to. So I'm imagining that some of that was the burnout, but what else burned you out about your job?
Well, being something I'm not. You know me. I'm obviously not meant to be the 3-piece suit working 90 hours a week individual. Right? I couldn't be me. I couldn't talk like me. I couldn't show up as me. And stuffing all of that down energetically, like we're three bodies. We're the body, we're the energetic body, and we're the spiritual body. I was damaging myself on all three levels. And the result was a physical expression of all of the damage I had done. So the three hard events before I was 29 or before I was 30. So third, I had to have they gave me a complete hysterectomy. So, menopause by 29, losing that sensation of hot or cold, having to move away from my home to try and find better medical care. And nobody could help me. And I was so depressed. I was living in Dayton, Ohio, which has more people on the roads at rush hour than lives in the entire state of Alaska. So culture shock.
Yes.
Culture shock. My husband, who I've been with since I was 14, right? He was thousands of miles away. I was so alone and I was suicidal.
Yeah.
I could not come up with a way that had I killed myself, my husband wouldn't know. Like if I could have come up with a way that everybody would have thought it was an accident, I would have done it. But coming up with the scenarios, I was like, nope, Barry'd figure that out. Nope, Barry'd figure that out. And I wouldn't do that to him. But life was so bad. I was in like my physical body hurt so much. Every muscle, every joint just ached. And what happened and what started me on the process of becoming the Shaneh you now know is I found live music. Like just to cheer myself up, I went to a concert. And in that concert, I was completely consumed by the music and wasn't paying attention to my physical aches anymore. And so that felt good. I was distracted. So then I started going to more and more concerts. And then I went to one where the pianist, it was a piano concert, brought on a special guest I'd never heard of, didn't know he was going to be there. And he sang Cante Partiro in Italian. And he hits this note in the song and he held it for 17 seconds. Like I count. Remember, I count everything.
Yes. Right. I'm like, how did you know that? But duh.
Yeah. And I physically stopped hurting. It wasn't I was distracted from it. I did not hurt at all. Everything in me found peace. And that peace lasted 4 hours, which was the longest I had been out of pain in years. So then I kept chasing the music. And then a book was brought to me. And it was, I'm even trying to remember how I found it. I think, because this has happened multiple times to me. I was at the bookstore because books are, another one of my addictions. And it almost like the cover glowed. And the book was The Upside of Stress by Kelly McGonigal. He is a social scientist at Stanford University. And I was like, upside of stress. And the doctors are telling me I can't get hot and I need to control my stress. Those were their only two pieces of advice. I read the book. And the entire book is a mindset shift around what we think stress does to our body. Right? You know this as a doctor. The adrenaline, right, is the same chemical and the same physical reaction like a winning football team feels before they take the field, or puts me in a state of almost shock because I'm terrified of public speaking.
Right.
Right? But it's still the same adrenaline. So you have a choice of believing that it's helping you or that it's harming you.
Right.
So her research and her study showed that what we believe about stress has more to do with what stress actually does to us physically than what the chemical actually does. Hey, whether it's true or not, whether you guys as doctors agree, does not matter to me in the least because I believed it. And so over the course of reading the book, I was like, it had little experiments you could try. So I tried them. And within a week, I was out of pain. And within 2, I could fully walk again. But bump, right?
Okay, pause. So for those of you who are not watching, I had to sit back and be like, let me be clear about this. How were you getting around before? I mean, were you in a wheelchair? Were you using canes? Were you kind of just holding on to things, or were you just kind of sedentary?
I was mostly sedentary. I did not have a wheelchair. When I would walk, there would be maybe 15 minutes at a time where I could walk, but it was more shuffling my feet. I couldn't feel my feet.
Yeah.
Which makes it very hard to, pick them up and put them down without stumbling.
Yes.
And stairs. Oh my gosh, stairs were the worst because I couldn't feel the stair tread. So I was never like fully locked in bed, though there would be weeks that I couldn't get out, more probably the depression than anything. But it just, I couldn't fully walk. I had to watch my feet to walk to see if that I was actually picking them up and putting them down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So from that to being able to actually go up the stairs.
Yep.
Actually to being able to pick up your feet and not having what we call in medicine, a shuffling gait, where you're kind of just sliding your feet around, you're able to actually walk again. Were you able to start feeling? Did you have that did the sensation also come back as well too at that time?
Yep. It came back. Now there's been times, so that was 2015. That was 2015 when because I moved to Ohio in 2007, right? And that's when I got the news that I just had to control my heat and my stress. And then I was trying, right? Really tight grip, trying to control my stress. And so I was managing from 2007 to 2015. So 8 years of just dealing with the crap, which was awful. 2015 was when I read the book. Since 2015, I've had maybe two, and would have been in like 2015 or 16 or 17, 2 episodes where I again lost the sensation, but it would be like for a day or two.
Okay.
Was in extreme pain for a day or two. And I could look back and go, oh, I'm getting caught up in the stress again. And what I think the burnout and stress is doing to my body. Here it is, 2024. And other than like 2 or 3 episodes, I'm symptom free, asymptomatic. So my documents say I have MS and I've been asymptomatic for how many years is that?
Almost 10 years.
Yeah, nearly.
Wow.
So that's why I believe, I don't think the doctor was wrong per se, because we did the MRI and I've got the lesions and like all the things, but I think my problem was the stress, was the physical, emotional, spiritual, energetic burnout I was going through.
Absolutely.
And all the stories I had of who I had to be and how I had to act and what stress was doing to my body. I start shifting my mindset around that and I started healing. Right? Music and this particular artist, who is now one of my dearest, closest friends, by the way, changed my life. So between the physical healing I received, I believe the music also helped me heal on some emotional and spiritual levels, because suddenly I have this opening that I can be more than just an accountant. Right?
How do we get so let's go there. How did that get revealed? How did you just realize that you could be just more than an accountant? Yes, you healed yourself, but
well, I went to this artist. His name's Mark Masry. He's a singer out of Canada. And like after following him and going after concert, I approached him after a concert and was like, "You are amazing. And I'm not trying to sell you on anything," which, by the way, is a bad opening line.
Not trying to sell you, but that's something for you.
Not trying to sell you on anything. But will you please let me fix your website? His website was awful. Terrible. And at this point, I had written my own website. He didn't have a YouTube channel. He had no social media presence whatsoever. And he didn't say yes right away. We got to know each other more, and he realized I really wasn't trying to sell him. I wasn't asking for any money. I wasn't asking for anything. And he did. He took me up on it. And I rewrote his website, put him on social media, created a YouTube channel for him. And he kept saying, Shaneh, you're so creative.
Mm-hmm.
And my first response to that, the first time anybody said it to me back then, was roll my eye. I'm an accountant. I'm not creative. I don't have a creative bone in my body. But when somebody keeps repeating something, just like being told you're going to be an accountant because you count everything and you're really good at math, the more I heard it from people, the more I started to own it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And once I had this opening that, oh, I'm not just an accountant, I'm also creative. And he would say, like, you're a writer. I know you make your living as an accountant, but you are a writer. And I love you nodding your head.
Yes, because it's just like, yeah, you are. So pause again for anyone who's listening. Of course, everyone that's listening, go to prosperityfirst.com, which is Shaneh Woods' website if you're interested in working with her. And even just the copy on her website is amazing. You are definitely a writer. Of course, as your client, I'm on your email list. Every time I receive an email from you, I feel so supported, held, seen. Who'd have thought that could be feelings that I would feel from getting emails from my accountant? My other accountant, which I have a tax accountant as well too, is like I get emails from them and it's just like daggers in my chest. But coming from you, it's like, okay, like it's just a different energy and a shift. So I love that someone else creative saw that creativity into you and spoke that life into you and shared what they saw with you and was that reflection for you.
So every day since, I've grown and changed. I've opened myself up to spirituality, right? A big realization as part of my healing was you can't hate or be angry with God and not believe God exists.
True.
Right?
Absolutely true. Those two things cannot be true.
Yeah, you can't be angry at God if some part of you doesn't also believe he exists. And I'm not talking for myself in the Christian sense. But I had a lot of, if God is good, why did I have to go through all the things I went through as a kid? Right. So once I had the realization that I had to have some part of me believe in a higher power, I wanted to explore, well, what does that mean for me? Because part of my growing up and the abuse that I experienced was through religious organizations. So I am not religious at all. I don't conform to any organized religion. I am deeply spiritual. And what does that mean for me? Right?
Yeah.
For those watching, like I've got a moon goddess behind me. I've got Kuan Yin hanging in the corner. I've got Ganesh. Like I've got several faces of God around me. And that feels really good to me. So I started, I had an oracle card pulled for me, which was a nearly traumatic experience.
Talk to me about what's an oracle card and tell us a little bit why that was a traumatic experience.
Well, it was traumatic because, so this was the first time I ever had an oracle card pulled for me. And it was somebody I had, for fun, met with, somebody I admired, said, oh, she's got this gift. She channels information. And I'm like, oh, this will be interesting. So I meet with her and I am a skeptic, right?
Yes.
I'm a skeptic of everything. I think it's probably the 5 placements in Sag, but so I'm a skeptic and I'm just going, I'm going for entertainment. Like when you think the fine print on like the psychic network for entertainment purposes.
Right. This is for entertainment purposes only. Yes, exactly.
That was how I went. And she starts talking to me about things and like mentioning that I'm a twin and like, who would know that? Right? My twin brother died.
I didn't until just now. Did no idea. Okay.
Yeah. And she knows this about me. I'm like, And so she's saying a lot of different things that I'm like really getting into. Like, okay, but I'm a wall. I have resting bitch face.
Same girl. Same.
And so I'm a complete wall, but she said enough that when we got off the call, I went and Googled myself to see if there was anything she could have Googled about me before our call to then use in the conversation to make me think she channeled information. And there was nothing online about me having a twin. There were several things, just not online. Like, okay. So I scheduled another call with her to go deeper because now I was really curious. I was more open. She kept saying in both calls using fire language, ignite, burn, flame. And fire is my greatest fear. My mother used to, before I was taken away from her, would like give me a hug and then put her cigarette out. I was in a fire when I was 9, and I don't remember the fire, but I remember waking up to the fireman carrying me out of the fire. When I was 16, I was put in a wood fire, and the log rolled down and pinned my arm to a burning log, and I got 3rd-degree burns. Like fire is, and even the words would trigger me. So I finally, at the end of the conversation, I'm like, listen, I appreciate what you're saying, but I am fully triggered, and this is why. And sorry, you should have told me earlier. I could have changed my language, but that is what's coming through. Okay. And I needed a nap. It was actually the day of my mother's suicide, where she killed herself by lighting herself on fire. Right? Fire, big problem in my life. So it was the anniversary of that day. So I mean, like I needed a nap. She suggested I take a nap. I come back from my nap and I'm on Facebook, and she's like, hey, I'm doing oracle cards. She's doing a Facebook Live. Put your name in the comments and I'll pull one for you. And I was like, now that I've had this 2 experiences with her, I'm like, okay, what is this thing? So I put my name in and she gets to it. I'm like 3 or 4 people down the list. And so she's pulling cards and telling the person what they say and what she's intuiting from it. And she gets to me and she goes white. And she's like, I don't know that I can do this. I don't know that. No, I'm going to trust. And she turns the card around, and the card is Fire Guardian. What is one of my favorite phrases you have heard me say over the course of our relationship, Kimberly?
I don't know. You have so many. Thank you. More, please. You said what? Say it again.
Can't make this shit up.
You can't make this shit up. No, right? You cannot. A Fire Guardian.
Fire Guardian. And, so she tells me what the card actually says, like what the booklet says. And then she's like, Shaneh, yes, fire has harmed you, but you are now at a stage in your own evolution where you get to reclaim the fire. You are the fire. You are the light, or the spark that creates life for others. Right? It's like, so I heard that. I didn't necessarily receive it fully at that time, but I heard it and it played on repeat in my subconscious. So of course I had to go buy the deck.
Of course, that's a natural thing to do. It's like, whatever this is, I need to go buy all of it. I want to see everything.
So I buy the deck and I play with it. And the first card I pull is Star Ancestor. And it's a gentleman. The picture on the card is a gentleman who looks a hell of a lot like me. And by the way, my twin brother. Right? And my grandfather, who I did have some contact with, but they couldn't take me when I was young, always told me that if I ever needed my twin, to look out into the sky, and he was always available to me at the brightest star I could find. So for my entire life, I've been talking to Shad, my twin, by looking at the stars. So the first card I pull is Star Ancestor.
You cannot make this shit up.
Nope.
This is why I call you a money magician, by the way. This is why I call you a money alchemist, because I think you've had so many magical experiences now that you, of course, take into what you do. Not to interrupt you, but that's why I just wanted to say, like, that gave me chills. That's wild.
blew my mind. And I have a bit of an addictive personality, right? I don't buy one book, I buy thousands. I don't buy one crystal, I buy hundreds. I don't buy one deck, I have 30. Right? I don't buy one piece of art by an artist I like. I like every piece you see of painting behind me in my thing is the same artist. Right?
Okay. And that makes sense.
I fell
because it all looks similar.
And, bought it all. So in my process of learning and experiencing the cards, and the cards are just a deck of cards, they're a divination tool, but it's not about the card telling you something, it's about your intuition, right? What do you hear, feel, see inside of the card? The booklet that comes with it is a guide.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what do you take from it, right? So I get this deck. It's my favorite deck. It's my roomie deck. And I'm playing with it. And the very first card I pull is called The Lover and the Beloved. And I'm pulling it from a perspective of my business, of my money. I was struggling with my money and my ability to receive. And I was like, what does the universe want me to know? And I pull this incredible card, the artist, and I'm drawn to a particular deck based on the art. So when I look, and if the art doesn't resonate with me, it does not matter how good the words are, I'm never going to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
So the art of this deck by Razuli is stunning. And the card, the lover and the beloved, and the cards opens up with, why won't you let me love you? And remember, I'm asking questions about money.
Mm-hmm.
So why won't I let the energy of money love me? Why won't I be in partnership with money as opposed to, think of it. Most of us either put money in the position of the hero. Oh, once I finally have enough money, I will get to be, do, or have.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of that Disney princess, someday my prince will come.
Exactly.
Right? Or
exactly.
we put it in the position of the villain. Mm-hmm. I'm not good with money. Money turns you into an asshole. Rich people are just out for themselves. Right. People with money can't be trusted because all they want is money.
Is money. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So if that's the lens that we are engaging with money on, that's an awful relationship. Like both of those relationships are abusive. Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm. From one standpoint, and I'm sorry, because that's so true. From one standpoint, I see it as a very, like you said, the hero is still a very paternalistic. It's everything is depending on you as money to save me, to rescue me. When you finally decide to arrive, then, like you said, I'll be able to be or do whatever I want to do. There's nothing that is empowering about yourself. And you're able to generate money or generate a different thought or anything. It's all about when it finally arises, whenever it decides to show up, whenever the check hits, then I can do all of these things. Yeah.
Well, and I want you to think about it, how good you have to be. I have to be a good girl in order to deserve it. If you were brought up in a religious environment, you might have to you need to suffer in order to serve.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to become something you're not. And if you don't follow the rules, you don't get to have.
Right.
Right? And I'm like, no, this doesn't feel good. So I started playing around with this idea that money is a friend. And I don't have many because I'm introverted, but I have some very close friends, the ride or die, the people that will help you carry the body, right?
Yep. You need about just 2 of those people. You should be good.
You don't need many of those. So it's like, okay, well, what if that's the relationship I have with money? Like, ooh, isn't that nice? Now, it took me a little while to come around with that. I thought, okay, well, what if money is a dragon and protective of me? But then I found that that protective energy would be like, let's burn it all down.
No,
right? And
we
that
don't want to
didn't
do
feel
that.
good. That didn't
Right.
feel good either. So when I came up with this, it gets to be my friend. The friendship I most admire in fiction is Samwise Gamgee and Frodo from The Lord of the Rings. Right? Now, I read the books, gosh, when I was like 9. And of course, I've seen all the movies. And there was nothing in the world that Samwise wouldn't do to help Frodo achieve whatever he desired. And I'm like, I want a friend like that. I want money to be my friend like that. There is absolutely nothing I desire that money doesn't want to give me. That feels good, right? And it evolved over time. When I kept pulling the lover and the beloved card over and over again. I would go back to the deck and I would shuffle and it would fall out again. And my belief is that if it keeps coming out, there's a deeper layer to it. There's something more for me to learn. So I'd keep going into it and going into it. And then it was like, it's the lover and the beloved. Well, what if money was my lover? Ooh, what if I got a little sexy with my money? What if I allowed it to court me, to give me gifts for no other reason than it wanted to delight me? I don't even have to ask for what I want. It just wants to pour into me. Oh, that feels good. Like that feels really good. And now I have me and my 2 Joes. So now I'm in a little bit of a menage a trois with my money.
Now that's another pause right there. Let's do a stop now, girl. What you mean you in a menage a trois with 2 Joes? And 2 Joes or 2 Johns?
2 Joes.
Okay.
So for whatever reason, money named itself Joe for me. And right? I didn't pick it. It just like it hit me one day that having a name for it other than just lover would allow me to engage in it. And I asked what's your name? And it said Joe. So I have channeled conversations with money. I have notebook after notebook of where I have conversations with my money. Sometimes money, tells me to pull my head out of my ass. Other times it tells me how incredible and special I am and that I need to show up because the world needs my genius.
Let me ask you this, because let me pause. I just have to remember now, you and I have been working together for over a year. These are conversations that we have had multitudes of times. But let me go back to someone who may be listening. How would somebody listening that wants to have a better relationship with their money, like you said, maybe they're not the fact that they're in a menage a trois, but they want to just at least get friends, shake hands and start being cool with each other and have a better relationship. So how would you have someone or advise someone to start having similar channel conversations with their money? What steps should they take?
Well, a little bit of self-promotion here. First, go to my website, sign up for my free channeled conversations with money. Okay. So I have a 13 email series that takes you from the very first conversation I have to me and my 2 Joes.
So that is prosperityfirst.com, correct?
It is, yes.
Got you. Okay.
And it is amazing to witness the conversation, but also money talks back to you as the reader and says, hey, this is Shana's relationship with me. What do you want yours to be? How would you like to tango? Right? So I'm going to say, that's a great place to start. But if you don't want to sign up for something because we all get too many emails, and I get it, that's fine. I would start by asking yourself honestly, what are my beliefs about money? Do I believe that I have to become a better person in order to deserve money? Do I believe that if I had a lot of money, I could turn into somebody I don't respect because as a whole society think about all the conversations on social media that billionaires are bad guys.
Right.
Right. And if you hold that belief, of course you're going to avoid money. So you got to get real with what you believe around money. And then I would suggest the conversation starts with a rant. Like pour out onto the page, into a microphone, into an empty room, all the ways that you are pissed off at money. You let me down. You fucked me over when you let me get into hundreds. I mean, you're talking to doctors, right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, right? You weren't there for me when I needed you. That time that I had my, I got the eviction notice or my car repoed, or I was ashamed because I couldn't buy the thing that would have put me in the same, looky-loo sphere as my peers, right? All the ways that money has let you down, like rant, let it all out. And it doesn't have to be reasonable, right? It doesn't have to make sense to anybody but you. Like rant, let it out. And once you feel like you have poured out every piece of vitriol onto the page or however you let it out of your system. So the next thing to do is to create a ritual around what you poured out. So what I like to do after I have completely vomited my angst up onto the page is to try and find the beauty in it. Right? It could be the image that my writing looks like on the page. Like I see the pattern, not the words, the pattern. Right? It could be how the pages have landed, because I have written page after page and tossed them on the floor. It could be the beauty of how the light is coming in the window now that, right? Because once you've purged all of this, you start seeing beauty around you because that darkness is no longer inside. And once you can find the beauty, you can choose to breathe back in the light. Breathe in the beauty, which is taking your power back. Right? You're leaving the ick on the floor and you're breathing back in the power.
Yeah.
Once you've done that, you get to tell money exactly what you require. Right? And I like to start, I literally start the sentence with, I require, desire, and deserve. And deserve is a hard thing for people to say.
Ooh, isn't it? Especially physicians, and especially, I'm not saying as a physicians, but I'm gonna say probably everybody in healthcare, because we are the ones that are giving so much, and we have a very good relationship with delayed gratification. And so once we actually get to the point where we feel like now we should deserve something, it's either we go to two different ends. Like we either go to the extreme where, oh, I deserve it all and no boundaries, or I don't deserve anything because I'm not at this perfect place to receive what I am asking for. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't done enough, given enough to deserve whatever. If you start a sentence of something that you're trying to call into your life, and I don't care if this is money, health, a new house, with I require, desire, and deserve. If we break it down, I require, this is my minimum requirement. Like when I was doing this for money, is I require money to be in support of me at all times, consciously and unconsciously, right? This is a bare minimum. I desire, this is what my heart needs. This is what my soul is calling forth. And I deserve it simply because I exist and it harms no one. I don't have to do anything to deserve it. I require, desire, and deserve it. So one of my favorites, and it's one that I'm using right now in some of my practices, me and my tapping, is I require, desire, and deserve 20,000 plus deposits, 100,000 plus months, $1 million plus years, year over year, month over month, deposit over deposit. Like that's the entire sentence. Because I don't require, desire, and deserve it once. This is my new norm. Is it yet? No. Can it be? Absolutely.
Yeah. If you call it to yourself and be specific, then the universe will give it back to you. Will give you what you're asking for.
Absolutely. And it does it in a way that is supportive of you and your dreams and your goals and your desires once you have developed a more healthy, nurturing, supportive relationship with the energy of money. And the way we receive one thing is the way we receive everything. So if you have a problem taking compliments, you're going to have a problem receiving money. If you have a problem receiving money, you're going to have a problem receiving orgasms. If you have a problem receiving orgasms, you're going to have a problem receiving help, right? And round that goes. The way we receive anything is the way we receive, or the way we receive one thing is the way we receive everything.
Whew. I'm being helped. We have not had our monthly session yet, but I am being helped and transformed. And I am just amazed at this conversation that we're having, because I literally was having a conversation with one of my clients about the same energy, the same thought process, the same stream. She's actually a money coach as well too, and developing, helping her to understand what her money story is, where her money beliefs came from, and what's her current relationship with money. How does she develop that? Because she is a self-made millionaire. And really so that she can identify that, so that she can translate that to her other women physician clients who are having some of these same thoughts, the same feelings, the same experiences or similar experiences to go through that. I think it's so powerful to look at money not just as a number on a screen or a piece of paper in your wallet or even a piece of paper in your checkbook, but really, like you said, reimagining this. And like you said, what if asking, just being curious enough to ask the question, well, what if money was my friend? What if we could just be cool with each other? Maybe we're not allies just yet, but maybe we can just start with a different place and then stepping there from there. This has been beautiful conversation, because I think another thing that I've noticed, and I noticed this with myself, even though I'm also a very creative, imaginative person, I think going through years of medical training, I feel like I have felt like I've forgotten my imagination. Do I know how to imagine things anymore? What do I want? Especially coming out of burnout. Of course, my story with burnout as well. I identified so much with what you said with your burnout from your traditional role as an accountant. But there's I think a lack of physicians and other people that are in these very highly structured, highly regulated, buttoned up, paternalistic areas like medicine and accounting and even the law, et cetera, where we forget, we just have to follow this regimen of you do this, then you do that, then you do that, and then 4 years or 7 years later, you pop out as a physician, you pop out as an accountant, you pop out as an attorney. But can we go back and remember when we were kids, and can we just throw off the age, the fetters, the experience, and just be childlike and just be curious again about what if I just looked at this differently, completely differently? So I love that's the imagination and the visualization. It really sounds like really freed you from having a completely negative relationship with money. And I also wanted to double tap on the fact that you're an accountant. You're my CFO, to be clear, of all of my businesses. And you still had problems and thoughts and feelings and emotions about your money. Even you, the money counter, the number whiz, the math whiz, still had thoughts about money as well too.
Yeah. First of all, most accountants, bookkeepers, CFOs, even if they don't have the negative stories of their own, right? They didn't grow up in poverty. They didn't get told that they couldn't have the thing. So they took that as I'm not worthy, right? All the stories that we get as children living in poverty, even if they didn't have that, the way we are taught to do our work trains us into scarcity.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
That's our job is, you need to go spend this money at the end of the year so you don't have to pay taxes. Well, who are you to be spending this money on this thing that's a bad idea? Like, I can't tell you how many clients have come to me and said, my bookkeeper, my accountant, every time I talk to them, I end up crying. I feel so stupid, so ashamed, so discouraged. What am I even thinking of being a business owner? Right? Who am I to have this life? They judge me for how I'm raising my kids because I'm choosing to pay for my kids to go to private school. Right? And it's like all of that. Like, do you really want somebody touching your money who makes you feel that way about money? That's just going to push your money even further away. Like, if this is the hill I will live and die on in this lifetime. Money loves joy.
Yep.
So the more joy that you can find in conjunction with your money, the joy of receiving it, the joy of the impact it gets to have, both materialistically, energetically, spiritually, like philanthropy, like joy, just find the joy. And I find orgasms joyful, right?
Yes.
So this is where, like, for me, money is my lover. Like, how can I bring the sex energy into my money? Because for me, that feels really good. It doesn't have to be your relationship with money. Because I don't want to leave the loop open for your listeners, because it will leave a question. Right?
Well, everybody listening to this podcast should be at least 18 above. So
me and my two Joes, like, at first my lover was the supportive, caring. Like, you think about when you're getting to the age where you're like interested in a partner, there's the people that interest you because, wow, you could see yourself in a long-term supportive relationship. And then there's the others that you just kind of want to do the nasty with, right?
Period. Yeah, and that's all they're good for, and that's all that you need from them.
That's all you need from them. So at first, Joe was very much the loving, supportive, like, I would have children with this man, right? Kind of money. If I'm struggling, if I am tired, if I just need a bath drawn for me, this is my Joe. And then it was like, but I want to have fun with my money too, right? And there's the loving, gentle, and there's the just fuck me up against the wall. So then it was like,
yes, up against the wall. Yes.
So then I had this image of two very different Joes, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And I get to have both. So I have a visualization, which I've shared with you before. And if you'd like, I'd be happy to give you the link so that you could share it with your audience.
Absolutely.
Is the banquet of success, right? And everybody who comes to my banquet of success is there in support and celebration of me. So the visualization where the two Joes started was, I had the Joe that was by my side and making sure that everything was taken care of and that I was being the focus of the attention, because I am not the hostess of this party. I'm not worried about anything. People are worried about me or taking care of me and my needs. And then there was the Joe that wanted to take me on the dance floor, do the tango, and then take me to the coat room, right? And that felt great. And my Joes get along, right? They each have their job, their duty in the way they perform inside of my life. And I get to have everything I require, desire, and deserve, because my Joes are at my beck and call. Whatever I need, they've got it covered.
I'm obsessed with this. Clearly, I'm obsessed. I think that this is revolutionary. I've personally found it very life-changing to think about my money this way. And I guess a small other plug for me, how we even got a chance to know each other is that you and I were in a similar in the same Facebook group. And at the top of last year, everybody's looking for tax help. And so of course, needed some things done with Sherwood Properties, my midterm rental business. And that was my first year to be, looking at taxes, looking at my money, all of those things. And I knew that I needed an accountant to give me a lot more information about what was happening in my business because I was actively trying to growing the business. So that's how you and I came across. And so, but last year was also very emotionally difficult for me, was financially. It ended up being successful, but it felt like shit along the way. And you were there to kind of walk me through that. And so saying all that to say, to be able to use some of the tools that you're sharing with my audience about the banquet of success visualization, about having a different relationship with my money, about even just knowing my money, because you are able to, yes, have this conversation with me, but also to literally have the actual factual numbers, facts-based conversation. This is not just a woo-woo experience every day, but we also look at like what is literally happening from a factual standpoint, month by month, week by week, from every aspect of the business, and then going from there. But just how even, like I said, just to be able to just navigate a relationship with money differently with even the tools. Like I said, it's been helpful, of course, with the knowing my numbers and things like that. But I am amazed at how much my thoughts have changed about money, how much more I'm able to receive, the capacity that I feel like I've been able to expand to say that I want 541 Creative Group to be a multi-million-dollar business. I want Sherwood Properties to be a multi-million-dollar business. I want these businesses to retire me from clinical medicine, and being able to say that and have a plan to do that, and to be able to look at that as not as a struggle, but like you said, as a friendship, as a kinship that I have with my money, as a way, as a vehicle to get there, has been so powerful. And a lot of what most physicians aren't taught. We aren't taught anything about money. We're not taught anything about business. It's probably not until residency, and maybe probably your individual residency program, that you start to maybe a little bit talk about the finances of money and how, or medicine, and how things can go and how you can make money and how to be responsible. What are stocks? What are bonds? But then everybody looks at society as like, oh, doc, you're a doctor. You're rich. You don't have any problems with money. Of course, you should be rolling in it. And it's like, yeah, I do have a lot of money that I've earned, but I don't know what to do with it. And I have had these thoughts of when I was growing up and how to handle money in the past. And so this is still carrying on to me at 30 plus years old. Just because I put an MD after my name and a doctor in front of it does not change my thoughts about, how I perceive money. So
now this
has been powerful.
This isn't to say that this is true for every doctor, but I have several doctors as clients. I find that the majority of the ones that I have worked with, or you're right, by the time they come to me, they're making good money. They're making bank, and they don't necessarily know what to do with it. And people treat you differently because you have the MD, and they know that you have.
They know,
right? They know. Yes, I'm doing the air quotes as well. And because they haven't yet worked necessarily on their mindset around money, and they've got the old stories, they also have the societal pressures. My client base is predominantly BIPOC or LGBTQ, so they've got ancestral stories around money. Like there's a lot. that they do what I call hot potato it. They make a lot of money and they hot potato it right back out of the world. So they don't hold it at all. Right. Mm-hmm. And I want you to think, remember I said, if you can't receive a compliment, you don't receive money well. Women.
Right.
Kimberly, you look beautiful. What's your first response?
Oh, girl, this whole thing, you see these things, anything but thank you.
Right. And if it's not, oh, well, this is an old shirt or my hair is a mess today, it's thank you, so do you. Right? It's immediately hot potatoing it right back out of your hands. You cannot receive it. And if that is how you receive a compliment, you are doing the same thing with your money. I want you to think how many times in your life you got an unexpected $1,000, for example, and like the next day you suddenly had an extra $1,000 expense that was like, what the hell? Then you're like, well, at least I had the money. It's the same energetics. It is the exact same. And I see this a lot with doctors. I quantify data for fun. I can't help but count, right? It's just the way my brain works. So I see these patterns. And I think for doctors, it's because you guys are healers. You're being like an accountant is trained into scarcity. You're trained into give, give, give. Give of yourself, give of your time, give of your energy. It's your responsibility. You have to fix and save others.
And I want to pause you right there and I want to double tap on, I think that's especially if you are LGBTQIA plus or BIPOC or any way not a white male in medicine, because we're automatically the minority. And so we're looked at constantly to give and to be the example and to be seen. So we're always the ones that are, hey, can you speak here? Can you speak there? Can you talk to this? Can you volunteer your time? And you're right. It's always that giving nature of, and not necessarily receiving and just holding it as well too. So yes, especially because we are called on to so much from our communities, because that's our cultures for the vast majority of us. Our culture requires us to be those leaders and to go back and to teach and to educate and to guide the next generation through. And that's a burden in and of itself that no one, I think, speaks about.
Knowing that, if you and your listeners take nothing else from today, I want you to hear this. Your struggle, your suffering serves no one.
Say that again so we can, somebody in the back didn't hear you. Somebody was like adjusting their AirPods just when you said that. Could you repeat that, please?
Your struggle, you suffering serves no one. It is a cliche to say, put your oxygen on first and then help somebody, right? You can't pour from an empty cup. And I mean, it's a cliche for a reason. It's true. But the image that we hold when we talk about the cup, and that I see physicians all the time do, women in particular, this is my cup. I pour a little bit into it so that I can pour it all out. And I pour a little bit more into it so I can pour it all out. Your suffering, your struggle serves no one. What if instead you pour and pour and pour and pour into yourself so that your cup overflows, and it is from the overflow that you give. There is no pouring of the cup. You have poured so deeply into yourself, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, that you can give from the overflow. It doesn't have to be a struggle. Because of the culture and the way women are brought up and the things that I can only speak to from a distance, right? Because I don't have the stories you have as a beautiful, powerful Black woman, right? I just have the foster kid story. So I see this stuff from a distance. So the stories that you have, that because you succeeded, you have to give back to your community to raise up the next generation, right? Which is a beautiful thing to do. Absolutely. But if you're doing it from, I have to suffer and struggle to make this happen, you're actually teaching them that they need to struggle and suffer too in order to deserve the life that you've created for yourself.
Right.
And I'm not available for that. That's not allowed in Shaneh's world.
Not mine either.
Right.
Bullshit.
I'm not available for it for me. I'm not available for it for you. And I'm not available for it for your listeners. I want you and your listeners and anybody I come into contact with to understand, to believe that they are worthy and deserving of anything that they desire, no matter how big, no matter how small, no matter how outrageous, simply because they desire it and it harms no one.
Whew. I know you said you're not religious, but I grew up in the church, in the sanctified Pentecostal apostolic talking in tongues, holy roller church. So I'm going to say this, but the doors of the church are open, everybody. I feel like I am.
Did I just take you to church?
You just took everyone to church, because all I can say is yes.
Yes.
100% yes. Like to all of that. We do not have to suffer. We do not have to struggle. We do not have to believe these narratives and these stories that we're telling ourselves about our money. And in fact, the fact that we're telling these negative stories are keeping us broke and keeping us hindered and keeping us stuck. And as physicians, broke may or may not be something that you can identify with, but I would even say keeping you stuck working clinically, if that's not what you want to do. You having a better relationship with your money can empower you to be more free, to be more creative with it, to try something new. Maybe you've had a business idea for years and you've been too afraid to just do it, but having a different relationship and having different thoughts about your money, where it's coming from, how you receive it, how you generate it, everything that you've said. Yep. It's so transformative, and it's so healing, from burnout, or like I said, just clinical, like exhaustion, moral fatigue, all of those things that I think so many of us are experiencing, especially after COVID. So thank you, Shaneh, for all of your wisdom and all of your knowledge. So I guess before we go, really briefly, one, like I said, you're my accountant, but you're also my CFO. You're my money. I've given you a lot of different titles. You hold a lot of different titles in my life.
Well, I hold a lot of space, right?
You do.
Think about our calls. Yes, we talk about the details. We also talk about the energetics, and we follow the energy. So some calls, we are very much the science of money, right? Oh, your percentages are a little high here. We really need to look at this, so that, because it's always never about cutting costs just to cut costs, so that you can have that that freedom you desire, right?
Right.
And other times it's, how are you feeling with money today? Right? Let's hold space for whatever you're feeling, and all of your feelings are valid. So it's the soul and the science of money.
Absolutely. Double tapping on the soul, though, working with you individually, or working with you personally, I would say, has been so freeing, because I have called you, texted you in a panic about XYZ is going on with Sherwood Properties. ABC is going on with 541 Creative Group. What do I do? This is what my goals are. How can we make this happen? You have been a friend, a confidant, as well. And so to be able to have someone that you can literally text and call and say, hey, I need you to help me brainstorm. Like, I don't know what's going on here. Can you look at this a different way? That having a thought partner on my money has been so incredibly life-changing and helpful, because these are conversations like, who can you talk to about this? Sometimes you can't even talk to your spouse or your significant other about your money in the way that you need to be able to talk to somebody about it in order for it to grow. So I appreciate that working with you and working with your team at Prosperity First, I have been very held, very seen as a client. And I never have felt judged, even though I think in my head, my head's like, Shane's going to judge me. You have flat out said, Kim, I am not judging you.
Right.
And giving me the space and the opportunity to feel free and feel open. I feel like, especially as an emergency physician, I don't even get a chance to have that level of intimacy and that level of depth with patients sometimes coming into the emergency room. But this has almost been like a doctor-patient relationship, because I feel like I can come in to you and get healed. And so, but get healed around my money and healed around my thoughts around that too. So when you called yourself Dr. Money at the beginning of the podcast, hell, let me mail you a medical certificate so we can call you Dr. Money at the end of this podcast.
Money Alchemist. Honestly, the reason I still call myself an accountant and a CFO is because that's a title people understand.
Yeah.
And it's once they come into my sphere that it's like, okay, we've dealt with that science part. Let's open up the energetics of money. And some people aren't willing to go there, and that's okay. We can deal just with the science of money, right? I will not force my beliefs on anybody.
Yeah.
But you can't come in.
And that's exactly how you started with me. And I'm like, no, I'm curious. I'm like, what's going on? What are these paintings? What are these crystals in the background? No, what's up? Like, that's what I was drawn to, because you were so different than any other person. So yeah, but it's completely optional. You don't have to go down this path if you don't want to. But let me tell you, it is life-changing and incredibly powerfully revenue enhancing when you do. You will earn more money when you work with Shaneh. There's no doubt about it. I'm sorry. So Shaneh, before we go, could you just let where people know, like, if people are thinking about, they're looking for accountant or they're looking for some services, please just let us know briefly what you offer and how my listeners can get in touch with you.
Sure. So prosperityfirst.com is my website. On that page, you can either join up for my free money conversations. I'm coming out with a wealthy CEO quiz. So that'll be available to you soon. And then there's a contact button, right? So you can hop on my schedule and we can have a 20-minute conversation just to gain clarity as to whether or not there's even a synergy between us working together. We offer full bookkeeping and accounting services. So bookkeeping, payroll, taxes, like we can do it all. If you're like, no, I'm set there, that's great. You want to have a conversation with somebody who is a thought partner, a strategic partner, that's my CFO services. If you're just interested in how are you meant to work with money, great. We'll have a conversation about your money design. Like, I can meet you where you're at. So the best thing to do, follow me for a little bit, see if I resonate. Mostly on Facebook is where you can find me. And then hop on a 20-minute call with me, because if we're not a good fit, if I can't support you, I'll tell you. I'm not out to work with just everybody, right? So can I share one of my favorite memories of you, Kimberly?
Sure. I'm nervous, but sure. Go right ahead.
This is when I knew that you were open to whatever I brought to the call. We had a fantastic call. We talked a little bit about how you were feeling with money. We explored, getting curious and around what's possible for you if you had a different relationship with money. We talked about the practicalities of your money, what was going on in Sherwood or 541. And I'm like, okay, I guess we'll talk next month. And you pouted. You were like, aren't you going to pull me a card?
That's me, everybody. I have a very expressive face. Like, yeah, that sounds about right. I was like,
because with the expression, I was like, oh no, there's something more we still got to dig out, right? I was like, okay, what are you feeling in your body? Because that's always my go-to question. And you're like, are we gonna pull a card?
You're like, oh, crazy woman. Yeah, of course we can do that. But thank you for bringing it up again, because you already know that that's what I would love for you to do for our listeners. Just a little more sprinkle of your magic onto this pod episode. Would you mind pulling a card?
I don't mind. I am going to giggle because I opened up the box And one card fell out right off the top, which happens to be the lover and beloved.
No way.
I did not.
No way.
I just opened up the box and it fell out. So we have the lover and the beloved. Why won't you let me love you? Why won't you let you and I become an us? There's that. Let's do a quick shuffle and see what else might want. I mean, you could say, well, I pull that card a lot. That's why it was on top and pulled out. So
right. So let's go for the audience.
Let's see what it is. What's the name of your podcast again?
The Docs Get Money podcast.
The Docs Get Money. What does the audience of the Docs Get Money podcast need to hear today? Oh, isn't this interesting? We also have a raven sitting here outside my window. All right. You cannot make this shit up.
No.
Hand to God. That's what just fell out after shuffling.
So twice.
The lover and the beloved.
The lover and the beloved.
So let me read what it, like word for word, the opening of this, because it's obviously, it's what your audience needs to hear. So this is the Rumi deck by Elena Fairchild as the author and Razuli as the artist. And it is stunning. So the Rumi quote says, when you move beyond consciousness, you caress the beloved. When you move into the unknown beyond everything, the beloved caresses you. It is not enough to love me. I want you to allow me to love you. It is not enough to desire me, to want to be closer to me. I want to reach out to you and grab a hold of you, drawing you into me and never letting you be apart from me again. There is so much more for us to experience, you and me, than simply gazing, even with love, at each other from a distance. Let me take you into my arms. Let me hold you until we cease to know or care where you and I were once a you and I. For instead, we will be one. Will you allow it? Will you allow me? Will you allow us to be?
Money. I had to let that marinate. Shaneh, thank you. I will make sure that we put that little snippet into the show notes for anyone that wants to meditate on that or to just kind of reflect on that card reading. That was so powerful. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the Docs Get Money podcast listeners?
Money loves joy. So I'm going to end this podcast the way I started it. Just say yes. Yes. Say yes a little softer, a little harder. Say it a little louder. Yes. Dance with it. Yes. Thank you. More, please. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Thank you again, Shaneh. This has been an incredibly powerful situation, very powerful situation and powerful podcast recording. So thank you again. And for those of you who are listening, please make sure you check out Shaneh Woods at prosperityfirst.com. And like she said, she has all of the links there for you to either book a channel money conversation with her, have a 20-minute discovery call to see if you guys would be a good fit, and just follow her on Facebook and social media. You will most certainly be enriched. So thank you again, Shaneh, and looking forward to having you on another episode. I'm sure we're going to have you back another time.
Yes. Just say yes.
Yes.
I am here. Whenever you want me, you let me know.
Awesome. Okay. Well, everybody, you have a wonderful day, and we will talk later. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Docs Get Money podcast. New episodes drop every Thursday wherever you find your favorite podcast. Share, comment, follow, and subscribe to the Docs Get Money podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to know more, visit me, Dr. Kimberly Brown, at KimberlyBrownMD.com, and be sure to follow me at Dr. Kimberly B on Instagram. And until next time, let's go get this money, honey.